Big thank you to my channel members who support what I do on YouTube. SWEGTA! According to my YouTube analytics, you're gay. So in this video, I thought we could delve into some fan theories and speculation surrounding Jimmy Hopkins. Specifically, is Jimmy Hopkins bi? When Bully first got announced in 2005, nobody would have predicted that the game would have 6 kissable male characters, all of them members of the 6 main factions. Bully Trent Northwick, Jock Kirby Olsen, Nerd Cornelius Johnson, Greaser Vance Medici, Prep Gord Vendome, and Townie Duncan. Just like kissing female characters, you get a health bonus, the percentage of which depends on how much you've completed art class. In order to kiss a male clique member, you'll need at least 55% respect with their faction and a bouquet of flowers. Regardless of whether you've completed art class 5 and thus unlocked the ability to get kisses from female characters without giving any gifts, kissable male characters will always request a gift before smooching. And although the game explains kissing as a way of getting health, and you do get the same amount of health from kissing dudes, it's never explained that you have this as an option. In a way, this comes at the expense of the player, because you might find yourself in a situation where you need health, unaware that a kissable NPC is nearby. You see, usually the way players discover this is by randomly interacting with the NPCs in free roam. The game never brings this up on its own. All in all, this really doesn't seem like that big of a deal to me, at least. It's a quirky way of regaining health points in a comedic action-adventure video game, and it's completely optional. So, somebody got offended. Shortly before Bully's release in 2006, the anti-violent video games lawyer Jack Thompson caught wind of this game having all this gay stuff in it. Jack had been feuding with this company for a while, the most notable moment being the Hot Coffee controversy of the year prior. Hot Coffee being an unused minigame in the original PS2 release of GTA San Andreas. In San Andreas, you could go on dates, and hidden inside the game files was an unused minigame where CJ and his date would bang. Shortly after release, a modder found this unused code. They then enabled it, causing everybody to lose their minds. So when Jack Thompson found out that you could have Jimmy smooch another guy, he smugly proclaimed,
"We just found gay sexual content in Bully as Jimmy Hopkins makes out with another male student. Good luck with your teen rating now."
In response, the ESRB simply said that they knew about it and that it was fine. Queer acceptance was not as big of a thing in the 2000s as it is today, but there was nothing about Jimmy being kinda gay that necessitated changing Bully's rating. Even The Sims back in 2000 didn't have its rating affected by the inclusion of gay relationships, so I don't know, go cry about it. Which is exactly what Jack Thompson did. You see, when Jack Thompson and a Take-Two representative, along with the judge handling the case, examined the evidence, it came to light that you can get extra health by kissing people. You know, there are some comedically suggestive voice lines, and the character animations become a bit more intimate as you complete more of art class, but nobody gets laid, there's no nudity, none of that. It's just 2 people kissing, which, as we know, teenagers never do. Like, on what basis can you be made upset by this? It's one of the most whatever parts of the game for me. I'm supposed to be offended by fictional people being affectionate. If anything, the female kissing animations and sound effects are sometimes way more suggestive, but Jack Thompson gave all of that a pass. You know what else got a pass? Paparazzi, panty raid, Miss Phillips, ass pinching, making out with an old lady. Although that one's more of a developer oversight. Still though, all of this is in the game, and yet this is what took the notorious hardcore Rockstar edge one step too far. Either Jack Thompson has the most inconsistent and backwards priorities I've ever seen, or he missed all of this way more risque content because he's just homophobic and he only cares about that. Actually, come to think of it, I think it's both. I think he just sucked at his job and he harbored some strange feelings about gay people. Like, take Janet Reno, for instance. Jack Thompson and Janet Reno had this stupid feud that was going on for longer than it probably should have, and at one point, Jack handed Janet a note, asking her to check a box to indicate whether she's gay, bi, or straight. This is something that a full-grown man did at a place of work. I bring this up now because I feel like this gives a bit more insight into Jack's mindset. It wasn't just about his long-standing feud with Rockstar Games. I think a lot of this stuff had to do with the fact that he has some weird hang-ups on sexuality. Getting back to Bully, to no one's surprise, there was nothing at all problematic or illegal about any of this, so Bully kept its T rating. Dan Houser thankfully did not have to execute Operation Remove the Gay, and we now have all of this Trent and Kirby fan art. Hooray, I guess. Initially, I was not going to mention the Kirby Trent fan art thing, but there's not a single day that goes by where somebody in this community doesn't make a Trent and Kirby post. So yeah, I don't think any of you are going to object. Although some parents did express mild annoyance at Rockstar for putting gayness in their gayness, the larger concern was the schoolyard violence depicted in Bully, as well as Rockstar's reputation as developers of Grand Theft Auto. Sure, some parents clutched pearls and exclaimed, "Gasp! I don't want my son seeing anything gay. Help me, government. Ruin the fun for everybody." By the way, I vote. You did have some people like that, of course. But really, for the most part, people had misgivings about Rockstar's then much more edgy reputation, combined with them depicting kids fighting. Even users on GTA forums had mixed feelings when Bully got announced, and we only had a few glimpses into what the game was actually gonna be like. But again, all of it came down to the violence. What got people shaking in their boots wasn't the yowie, it was the owie. Shut up, that's a good line. Despite protests, despite doubts from their own customer base, despite having to rename and market the game under the title Canis Canem Edit in Europe and Australia since somebody found Bully way too inappropriate, I guess, and despite all the other stupid nonsense, Rockstar dropped the game, it did well in sales and reception, and a couple years later came Bully Scholarship Edition. Scholarship Edition, or simply Bully SE, is a 2008 re-release / minor remaster, switching game engines on most platforms, adding new content, gradually ruining the visual and sound effects, and reigniting controversy by including a new achievement, Over the Rainbow. This achievement requires you to receive 20 kisses from males. The backlash this time around was centered on the requirement to do something gay. It should be noted that there was also a Casanova achievement requiring you to get 25 kisses from females. Aside from some people on forums whining about this, it never really snowballed into anything bigger. Maybe an article here and there, but overall people just kind of shrugged. But then, 1 month following the re-release of Scholarship Edition, Bully got banned in Brazil. But yet again, the concern people had was the violence depicted in the game. So yeah, the anti-violent video games fire was still burning. Now you might be wondering, where's Jack Thompson? You know, he was like a key person in this story, so whatever happened to him? Well, the answer is, he was too busy getting disbarred to do his usual games are bad shtick. In 2008, his license was revoked by the Supreme Court of Florida for professional misconduct. A few years later, the BBC made a docudrama about Jack Thompson and Rockstar Games during the hot coffee controversy. A few years after that, Jack Thompson tried getting his name back out there, but at this point, I think we've all moved on. During the mission movie tickets, we have a couple of notable moments to discuss. The first being this piece of dialogue from the introductory cutscene.
Everybody's talking about you. Everybody says that you're mean and angry and you like fighting. Gary said you're so mad because you're sexually confused.
Yeah, well, Gary talks a lot of crap.
Some see this as Jimmy simply dismissing the rumor and not commenting on it beyond Gary Smith sucks. But I have seen some people interpret this as Jimmy asserting confidence in his own sexuality. He never denies being into dudes, instead he rejects the confusion part. But if I had to venture a guess and just tell you what I make of this, I think Jimmy's getting bored of Gary spreading lies about him. Nothing more, nothing less. Again, just my interpretation. Following this cutscene, the mission then tasks us with repelling the people waiting ahead of Pinky in line. You steal Gord's bike, causing him and Lola's date to be ruined. You bring Eunice to an alleyway to make out, and you then walk up to Trent and Kirby, who are also on a date. Upon being approached, Kirby panics at being seen. He proclaims that he just wants to play football and then runs off. Trent runs after him. Naturally, this moment alone has sparked a massive amount of fan art, fanfics, and discussion. These two are widely recognized by fans as a couple, canonically. It's also worth noting that although Kirby is one of the males you can kiss, he does have voice lines that imply he's closeted.
This never happened, okay?
And seeing how many of the other kids, Jimmy included, sometimes call each other gay as an insult, the game's writers clearly present homophobia as being something immature.
Maybe next time you'll watch where you're going.
What'd you do that for?
Oh, I'm sorry, Psycho. Did I hit your boyfriend?
I'm Helen of Troy, and you're more interested in boys called Troy.
Or, wait, do you like the boys on the team?
Yeah, right, Gary.
Which is it, Petey?
Go have some fun in the communal showers. Ooh, I just dropped my soap. Please pick it up for me.
Dead.
Losers.
And just like in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, you can sometimes come across citizens holding hands with somebody of the same gender. When two townspeople are spawned together as a couple, it's totally randomized who they spawn as. So sometimes you end up with a gay couple. Because of this, Bully leaves a somewhat interesting impression with how it handles the topic of gay couples. As adults, because they exist in the open and nobody minds. As teenagers, however, it's much more taboo. Mr. Burton does have an unused voice line where he mockingly implies that Pete likes other boys, but other than that, it's only the kids around town who act like it's a big deal. It should also be noted that there are some non-kissable male characters that are implied to be closeted or confused. For instance, Troy Miller from the Bullies, or Peanut Romano from the Greasers. There's also the unused character Bob. Let's talk about Bob for a second. A lot of his lines consist of him openly lusting for other dudes, and I've seen some of you speculate that he got removed from the game for having strongly homoerotic dialogue, like it was just too much for Rockstar even. If that's the case, then it's possible that whoever wrote the character had second thoughts and felt that it would go against how the game otherwise portrays gay characters. Personally, I lean more towards Bob getting removed because he didn't fit the game's usual style of humor. Yeah, you do have some dirty jokes on occasion, but a lot of his dialogue, and I mean a lot of it, is limited to stuff like this.
Oh, yeah! These boys know this pain. They've been through it a lot. Oh, man! It smells like Ted's jockstrap. Not that I've smelled that before, because I haven't. I just want to be loved and held with strong arms. All right, team, yeah, let's hit the showers.
It doesn't necessarily have to be because of anything gay. It could have just been that someone higher up on the team looked at this character, Bob, thought for a second, and then said, let's do something else. I don't think it necessarily had to be this big deal, is what I'm getting at. Alright, so we've talked about the pre-release controversy, the gameplay mechanics, the animations and sound effects, the re-release controversy, the speculation going on in the fanbase, and so there's only one thing left to ask. What did the creators of the game have in mind when they wrote the character of Jimmy Hopkins? Well, in a 2013 blog post, Bully writer Jacob Crurup explains how he convinced the rest of the development team to include kissable males in the game. Quote, "When you write romance lines for an open world game or MMO, write them gender neutral. Instead of, hey pretty girl, write hey good looking. Instead of, you're the man for me, write you're the one for me. It's really not that hard, and really, in real life, most people don't include specific gender references in most of their speech anyhow. Then, when it's suddenly decided that since it's 2013, we better have some gay content in the game, you can inform the rest of the team that all existing characters who have romance lines are already, quote, gay ready. It'll make things a lot easier for a lot of people on the dev team, and you'll seem like you have your shit together. That's how it happened on Bully. When I first brought up the idea of letting Jimmy mac on guys as well as girls, the whole romance thing was very low priority and no one cared. We were trying to make the game work on a much more fundamental level and stressing about deadlines we were busting. Later, near the end of the project, when the flirting and making out stuff was in and things were more or less under control, I brought up gay romance again. This time, people felt it was too complicated and too late in development and everything was already recorded. We were trying to bring it home, not add stuff. It's not that there were any objection to the idea itself, it was just a schedule and mental fatigue thing near the end of a hard dev cycle. So when I told them that it wasn't complicated, that a bunch of male pets had romance dialogue already and that Jimmy's existing dialogue would work without exception, all we had to do was tag these male characters as romanceable and we were good to go. It got added in short order. It worked out pretty well. So while the team behind Bully employed a very gender-neutral approach, one of the people who wrote the game and the character of Jimmy Hopkins insisted on including this as part of things he can do. I suppose you could say that it doesn't outright state anywhere that Jimmy Hopkins is bi. Still, this is clearly something that one of the people who wrote this character wanted depicted in the game. So I think, yes, he is canonically bi. Now, for the sake of fairness and discussion, I'd like to take a moment to look over the arguments made from all different sides on this topic. Like I said before, the general consensus appears to be that people think that yes, Jimmy is bi, though there are some people who have different takes on this. To kick it all off, here's somebody who believes that Jimmy is bi, and here's the reason why. Not only is Jimmy designed to be bisexual, there's a designated bi male member in each clique. Rockstar intended this. Everyone talks about Trent, but you can also romance Cornelius, Vance, Kirby, Gord, and Duncan. In order to platinum Bully, you have to earn the green thumbs up trophy. Completing the final art class can force you to find guys to kiss. Just to clarify, for those of you who don't know, if you've completed Art Class 5, you can get free kisses from the girls. Like I said before in this video, boys will still ask for gifts no matter what. So the point this person is making is, in order to get this trophy or achievement, you're gonna have to give flowers to a bunch of different NPCs in the game. So the kissable males actually play a role in another achievement. Maybe not intentionally, but that is sometimes how people complete this achievement at that point in the game. They go on to mention an interesting point that I feel I need to bring up. So some people have said that, okay, well, you do have the ability to kiss other guys in the game. That doesn't mean that that's something that, like, is canon with the character. Like, you have the ability to give people wedgies or pinch somebody's ass. Like, you can do those things in the game, but are these actual actions of the character that reflect who they are? You know, just because you have the option to do something, that doesn't mean that that's naturally a thing you would like to do. And I don't think this argument is without merit. I think it actually makes a lot of sense. However, I would submit that the way the game handles this is very different. You see, when it comes to something like bullying little kids, like, you can do that in the game, but it punishes you for doing so. The game actually assigns so-called punishment points to the player when you do this. In other words, you get a wanted level. Kissing dudes, on the other hand, that's like rewarded. You actually get health bonuses from that, and the NPC that you've kissed becomes an ally, even if temporarily. So if another NPC attacks you, then there's a possibility that the person you just kissed is gonna help you out a bit. So the game actually penalizes you for doing one thing, but then rewards you for doing the other. Here's somebody else who brings up an interesting point. Just because the game hasn't restricted that action doesn't prove anyone anything. Not the most eloquent start, I'll be honest, but whatever, we'll just stick with this. Rockstar Games chose to treat it as a gameplay mechanic, not a statement about Jimmy's identity. That's like saying you can kill grannies in GTA 5, so that means Franklin is a granny killer. You see how stupid that sounds? There are certain missions where you need to give flowers to girls and also kiss them. There's not a single mission in the game revealing that Jimmy has any romantic interest in boys. So basically what this person is saying is, like, there's no point in the game story, like a cutscene or a mission, where Jimmy expresses any interest in boys. The thing is, though, if you're bi, that doesn't automatically mean that you're like 50-50 and, like, you know, half of the relationships you express even the slightest bit of interest in pursuing are with that of the opposite sex and the other half is that of the same sex. Like, that, not necessarily the case. Like, I've known people personally, people that I've known for years, who after a long time, through just talking to them, I find that, oh, this person's actually bi. It never occurred to me because I always saw them in a relationship with somebody of the opposite gender. So I don't think the lack of Jimmy expressing any romantic interest in boys is like definitive proof or even indicative of him not being bi. It doesn't prove it one way or the other in my mind. But again, the main argument being made here is that this is an optional side thing that you can do if you so choose. It's an interesting point, and somebody actually responded to this saying they haven't not restricted that action, they've actively added it. It's not just a random NPC that you do default actions to, they've recorded voice lines and coded it in specifically to other bi characters that they've chosen specifically to be bi rather than making any boy bi. That's quite a difference to Franklin being able to attack any NPC. Not to mention that there are also animations that are specifically used by males kissing. Here's somebody who thinks that he's straight. Jimmy is canonically straight. Throughout all the canonical lore material, he has only shown interest in girls. There isn't even one line of dialogue in any of the game's cutscenes suggesting he's interested in boys, while there are several of him showing interest in girls. Him kissing boys is a gameplay mechanic, treated almost as an Easter egg. Nothing in the game points out that's canon or part of the character's personality, and they go on to explain, like, okay, yeah, you can pinch bottoms in this game. Is that a thing that Jimmy, like, canonically does? No, that's optional. So therefore, this is also optional and non-canon. You guys can get mad, call me phobic, or I'm not gonna do that. I don't think you're phobic because you have a different point of view on, like, a character's identity. Please don't get defensive. You guys can get mad or whatever else you guys know how to do when you have no arguments. I'll just ignore it. But for those of you who do have arguments and want to try defending the indefensible, step forward and let's debate. Can you take it down a notch? We're talking about a video game. If somebody has an unpopular opinion about, say, a video game, it's just that. It's still just an opinion. I don't know why we have all of these theatrics going on here, but whatever. To this person, I would again submit the argument that, you know, yeah, it is optional. You don't have to do this. It never occurs in the storyline or in any cutscene or anything like that or in any of the missions. But still, I mean, like, this is something that the game rewards you for doing. I feel like we need to make that distinction because when it comes to, like, bullying kids, I mean, like, that's, yeah, you can do that, but the game doesn't reward you for doing it. It does the opposite. Here's an interesting kind of middle ground take. Rockstar did go out of their way to record voice lines for all the boys you can kiss, so I personally like to think he's bi. The main story doesn't confirm he's bi, but it doesn't specifically say he's straight either. Here's another one. It never says he's bi, and if I had to guess, they just added the kissing guys feature just for the hell of it. And then somebody replies with, I heard it started as a bug and they incorporated it. This is an interesting point because I was under the same impression for years. You know, like, I thought that was like an accidental thing that they had in the game. Like, oh, we can kiss this male. Are we supposed to be able to do that? No? Alright, well, I mean, we could add that, I guess. For a long time, I thought that's how it happened. But no, as we established, one of the people who wrote this character and the story wanted this in the game from the word go. He continuously suggested it and eventually told him, like, look, hey, we have all of this set up. All we need to do is just tweak one little setting in a few NPCs, and that's it. So it didn't start out as a bug. It was actually something that one of the writers wanted in the game. And as for adding the feature just for the hell of it, I lean more towards they added this because they felt it made sense for the character. You then also have some people who believe this. Rockstar leaves that decision up to the player. I could see that. I could see that, especially considering how they made the environment vague in what time it takes place in. For those of you who don't know, I did a whole video on Bully's time. Like, when does it take place? It actually takes place in what's called an anachronism stew, which means that it has contradictory elements from different time periods so that you can't tell what year it is. It doesn't ever specify that. There are some mentions of different years in the game, but, you know, there's nothing that tells you straight up, this is the year the game takes place. You know, the whole purpose of this is to make the player feel like they can identify with the environment and the coming of age feel of the game. It's my childhood, it's your childhood, it's everybody's. There's a little bit of nostalgia plucked from all of these different decades. It's intentionally vague so that you fill in the blanks, so that you can identify with the character and the story and the setting. So I don't think it's unreasonable for somebody to arrive at the same conclusion when it pertains to this part of Jimmy's identity. I think a lot of these arguments have some weight to them, and it is just interesting looking back at a game that's 20 years old and speculating about what the people behind the game intended. This really is one of those games that, like, you could just talk endlessly about. I should know, I have a YouTube channel surrounding this game. So if you want to learn more about this game, then check out this playlist. It's loaded with bully trivia goodness. Shut up, phone. Anyway, that's it for this video. You folks, as always, stay classy. Peace.